This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today for a long overdue catch up is the quarterback and CEO at Patriot Battery Metals, Mr. Ken Brinsden. Ken, it is so good to have you on, sir. How are you today?
Fantastic to be with you, Gerard. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Listen, as a long-term supportive shareholder, it puts a smile on my face that despite your incredible success in the past and the incredible success that you're having now with Patriot, that you're boxed up in the back, you're sticking and moving, you're jet lagged from the many trips. CEO working hard. We appreciate that. Let's get right into it. Look, we have a situation in the lithium space that is changing as far as landscape goes. And it's been a frustrating year and a half or two for anyone that has been in the space for more than 4 years, for the simple fact that we had a phenomenal couple of years where all of us thought investing in lithium stocks and miners is really easy, right? You just put your money in and you just wait, and then you wake up one day and you have more money. And so what we've seen the last year and a half or two is a pretty expected but more severe consolidation than a lot of people thought. Expected in the sense that we imagined it was going to pull back. We knew it wasn't sustainable at that point. I don't think, at least myself, let me speak for myself. I didn't think that China could do what China did for as long as they have. And so I look at the landscape and I look at you and I look at your background and I go, okay, deep, severe consolidation. In the meantime, Ken and the team have added phenomenal value. You now have not just one world-class discovery, but potentially several world-class discoveries on one project. And oh, by the way, you've brought in people that to me as a shareholder scream, we'll take this to production if we absolutely have to. Zero problems. We've done it before. You've obviously done it before. I want to get your take on all of those things. Let's start with where you see this changing landscape, because I'm starting to see a lot of green shoots in the lithium space. And the demand part of the picture is absolutely doing exactly what I thought it would do.
Oh, Gerardo, you're spot on. You're right. It's moved from being a supply side debate in the last couple of years, the influence of China on the market. And I honestly believe we're now through the trough and basically heading out the other side with a view that demand is going to outstrip people's expectations. But it's the same old story, Gerardo. It's all
Hmm.
about so far what China's up to, and they really are changing the game. So lower cost cells translates to a heap more EVs, actually globally now, because China is a key player in lots of
Yeah.
export markets. And it's those low cost cells making their way into newer applications where the technology can be readily deployed economically. And of course, one of the standouts there is the stationary energy storage sector,
Right.
which really is a phenomenon, Gerardo. That one is being probably grossly underestimated by most, as to how quickly that market's growing. Um, to put you in the picture there, this year, growth in stationary energy storage is up plus 50%.
Hmm.
So almost double the effect of EVs, which are sort of in the range of kind of 27 to 28%. And yeah, the stationary energy storage, that's going to be a big one playing out in the coming years and a really important driver of demand growth that, as I said, I think is probably being largely underestimated. So yeah, there is plenty of reason to be optimistic about lithium raw material demand.
Let's get specific with Patriot, right? You have an emerging, and again, deja vu for you, right? World-class discovery. This one, and I think importantly, is going to be significant for all of North America, not just for Canada, not just for Patriot, but I think that the premium that should be given to North American deposits of significance, of global significance, like the ones you have, are going to command a substantial premium in the coming years. You have not one, not two, but potentially three and maybe four different metals that are going to be and are in very high demand. I want to start with the flagship, which is the lithium, because I know that the Cesium has garnered, and rightfully so, a lot of attention recently, right? And we'll definitely get to that. But let's get to the lithium. The lithium is initially why Volkswagen decided to partner with you. It's why Albemarle decided to come in. at a significant premium and write a check. And oh, by the way, having $100 million in the treasury Canadian and adding the kind of value you have during the consolidation has been brilliant execution despite the share price performance, right? But let's talk about lithium. Let's talk about where you are. And let's talk about what comes next with that feasibility study that I think is going to highlight a lot of the key factors and give us a real clear look through the window of potential economics moving forward.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal piece of geology, Gerardo. When you're in the hard rock world, you're looking for these classic kind of LCT resources, lithium, cesium, tantalum. That's what the geos will refer to. But it's very rare that you get the confluence of all three and some additive minerals in the one piece of geology. But that's exactly what we have at Shaakichiuwaanaan, world-class lithium, scale and grade, cesium now proven with scale and grade in the maiden resource, and a tantalite resource that many would be jealous of if you were just focused on tantalum. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really incredible piece of geology, and it's for all those reasons that we're excited about the potential in the project. On to the feasibility study. Spot on, mate. That is close. So we're only a month or two away from presenting the updated economics around a lithium-only CV5 development. So if I take you back to sort of ground zero, we've got the CV5 resource,
Yeah.
lots of lithium there, more lithium and cesium and tantalum at CV13. But the feasibility study, just to be clear, it's lithium only at CV5. That's what we're delivering. And that's what ultimately gets us through the next phase of mine authorization, the presentation of the feasibility study and the environmental approvals documentation. The value add that we expect to come from the other co-products, but in particular the cesium and the tantalum, that'll be played through the detailed engineering phase that'll happen while we're going through that first round of mine authorization. So just to be clear, lithium only on CV5, still a fantastic project, but the economic interest out of the cesium and the tantalum, that comes with the next step beyond the feasibility study. And we're looking forward to demonstrating what's possible there, because those co-products are also really material to the project overall.
For the generalist out there, and let's be clear, I consider myself a generalist, right? I'm not a geologist. When we look at the cesium and we look at the tantalum and we look at the lithium, I know you have to be having discussions with chemical companies, auto companies. Are you having separate conversations about each one, or are there conversations as well discussing the potential for maybe figuring something out with all three? Because there's applications for all three where, hypothetically anyhow, it could, you could send 25, 50% of all three of those metals to one client in exchange for an offtake, right? Or are those just completely separate discussions at this point? I see the
Well,
smile. I don't know if you're going to answer it.
No. I reckon you've raised a really interesting point there, because actually what it highlights is the concentration.
Yeah.
Actually, the way industry thinks about this stuff, they worry about the concentration risk going downstream through
Correct.
China.
Yep.
And I think if you were to say, would you or could you send them all in one direction, it would actually be in the direction of China. But of course, most people in industry, especially those focused on North
Yep.
America and Europe, are thinking about diversification of their supply chains and getting away from that concentration risk that exists in China. What that's flushed out, and yeah, I'm really pleased to report that as we've made these discoveries, we do genuinely get inbound interest from counterparties who are motivated to talk about the potential in the resource. Cesium is, of course, the most recent example where we have made the announcement about the discovery even before the resource was announced, and we're getting inbound inquiry about what can be done with that product, and in particular, further diversification of supply chains beyond just China. Cesium is an interesting one because it is like a lot of the critical minerals, it is almost universally controlled by China. So people are interested in what the alternatives can be. And for those reasons, we're happy to engage with them. It doesn't mean you don't ultimately have an opportunity to sell to China. It's just that there are people that are interested in the alternatives, and again, we're happy to have those conversations with them.
Excellent. On the cesium front, I understand maiden resource estimate in Q3 of 2020 of this year. Is that accurate? You
It's
got that one
already
out, right?
happened,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. You got
Yeah,
you
yeah,
you, you
yeah.
got that one out. Tell me about it.
We did, and it's really exciting because it's unprecedented in its scale, and the grade in certain subsets of the resource is kind of off the charts. So yeah, we're really happy with the outcome there, Gerardo. It's a fantastic resource. In total, about 2.3 million tons. I know that sounds incredible in the cesium world, because the next biggest resource is, we believe, the Tanko mine, and that's about 150,000 tons. So yeah, it's got incredible scale, got
Yeah.
amazing grade, and we're really keen to demonstrate what's possible with that resource over the coming months and years ahead.
I had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Jody DeRouge, who I know you're familiar with, a few weeks back, and him and I were just kind of shooting behind, back of the blanket, back of the napkin notes there. And I mean, we were sitting there speculating, and we look at it and we go, there could be a couple of $1 billion just in cesium here, and the resource estimate didn't do anything to disappoint that hypothesis, right? Thoughts on the potential value there? Do you want to get into that at all?
Yeah. Well, the products that come out of the pollucite concentrate, so the mineral pollucite is kind of the same as spodumene is to lithium. In the case of cesium, it's pollucite concentrate that delivers the cesium. And what you're doing is you're following a similar path to the lithium world. It's just typically going to be dealt in smaller scale. But the main idea is that pollucite concentrate gets dealt with chemically and creates really high value mineral species that make their way into chemical, um, you know, in certain circumstances, incredibly high value chemical initiatives. Things like medical imaging,
Mhm.
deep sort of oil and gas drilling, optoelectrical uses is really where the cesium comes in, and now the application of newer technology, new developments that improve the efficiency of solar panels. So that's where we see, the migration of, or let's say the next wave of technology developments that further improves the efficiency of solar panels. They're probably going to rely on cesium, inputs of cesium.
Right.
But the industry has not been, they've been a bit fearful, I guess is probably the way to say
Sure.
it, about the ability to make that become a real growth opportunity, because they worry about where the cesium is going to come from. So a
Right.
discovery like ours, significant scale, creates some more abundance of cesium, and therefore all these opportunities start to emerge, the market grows. That's really what we're focused on, Gerardo. The idea that there is going to be new technology paths that grow the market for cesium. And if you've got, what's clearly the world's biggest resource for cesium, then you're going to be a target for further discussion about how you can make that real.
Yeah, North America again, world's largest resource. Champagne problems on that front, right?
Yeah, Gerardo, you don't need to go to Greenland or the Ukraine for your
Yeah.
critical minerals. You're across the border in Canada, mate, in Quebec. It's fantastic.
Listen, I spoke about the share price performance, which sure, we're up some 120% over the last month and a half or so. But for those of us that started way back in the days at 16 cents and went all the way to $17, and now we're back at 420 or so. It's definitely been a roller coaster, with the end game, in my opinion, never really in doubt. Just all the in between noise that happens, I can understand the frustration for some shareholders. The one thing that I've preached to subscribers of mine and shareholders and friends and family, and those of us, our group still owns a substantial amount of shares, has been the value that's been added during that consolidation. And what I always try to explain is the timeline and the forest, right? You got to look at the forest. If the end game was always let Ken and the team take it to production or sell it at a significant premium, nothing close to today's prices, then all the in between stuff, yeah, I'd rather see it higher than lower, but it's just noise, right? The emphasis that I've really tried to just express to everyone is the amount of value that's been added over the last couple of years. And it's not just value in the ground with the new metals discoveries and the expansion of the zones and how open this thing still is, because I think that's underappreciated, but the team, the human value that's been added, the expertise that's been added, people that have had this rodeo before. They've taken it with you before and have put projects into production. Can you speak to some of the additions to the board and to the team? Because I think that also doesn't get enough attention when you're looking at the next stage for, potentially several world class metals discoveries of global significance.
Yeah, Gerardo, thanks for that follow up. Yeah, look, I'm really pleased and proud to be working with what I consider to be a fantastic team. And when I think back through the history, the development of Pilbara minerals, fighting your way through those sort of tougher periods, it really takes a great team to continue to maintain the rage and the focus to ensure that you can realise the potential in what you know is an amazing project. And I'm certain we've got those characteristics at Shaakichiuwaanaan in Patriot, combination of unbelievable geology and a really strong project you can wrap around that with the right expertise that's going to continue to deliver the main game, de-risking the project such that you ultimately hit production and create amazing production outcomes with great customers and key partners inside your project. So yeah, we've made some really strong additions to the team in Montreal, and I'm so pleased to be working with them because they're each capable, in their own right. And yeah, no, it's a really great outcome to be able to be a part of it. And I'd almost go as far as saying Gerardo, you're never going to attract the likes of VW making what's really their first
Yeah.
mining investment ever without having those key characteristics in place. Great project and great people that are
Yeah.
ultimately going to be contributing to the project's success. So yeah, really pleased with progress there too, Gerardo. And yeah, we're looking forward to continuing to demonstrate what's possible with the project.
You touched on Volkswagen and we touched on, the North American premium that I think should accompany every project, metals project, whether it's lithium or whether it's uranium or whether it's copper that has, a significant scale, right? And we've seen in the uranium space just a lot of AI, a lot of tech companies coming in looking for energy for the next several decades to power their AI ambitions and taking direct stake in the company, including the Department of Defense here in the US, right? Do you see the potential or have you heard of any potential discussions where that could spill over into the lithium space as we move into this situation with China, which seemingly it used to be. I used to call it the quiet Cold War. It's not so quiet anymore, and especially as it relates to resource independence. Do you think there might be a spillover into the lithium space?
Yeah, I'm certain actually that's the process is underway
Hmm.
now, Gerardo.
Hmm.
We think about Shaakichiuwaanaan now as being a critical mineral story. It's
Yeah.
not even just a lithium story. The combination of cesium and tantalum, and potentially some other sort of key elements down the track, the likes of gallium and rubidium that we're also focused on, means that people are going to be paying attention to key projects that are ultimately going to add value to a North American critical minerals story. Why are they so focused on it? Well, it all comes down to the concentration risk that now exists through China. China got well ahead of the game in the
Yeah.
critical mineral space over the last 15 years, and now it's the West's time to basically play catch up.
Yeah.
And part of that means getting invested in and in effect underwriting project development so that these alternate supply chains can make it to market. The danger is that if the West doesn't start responding now, and the US is particularly sensitive, I think, in this regard, if they don't start responding now, then there is real risk that they just continue to fall further behind to the point where you cannot catch up.
Sure.
Um, a little kind of microcosm of this experience, that I'm trying to describe here is actually what's happening to the car industry.
Hmm.
The car industry as a whole in the West now is under threat because of the rise of the Chinese national brands. And it's not really an overnight success story. It's been happening now for probably 15 years, a build
Yeah.
out of
Yeah.
capability and
Yep.
quality and lower cost. Now, a lot of it centers around the batteries. And honestly, to the point where the West car industry is under threat. Now, one of the reasons that we chose to work with VW was because of their intense focus on solving for these challenges with
Right.
Western car makers, but of
Right.
course in their brands, under the VW group. And their response is real in a sense that they're making investments in mining, they're investing in cathodes and batteries and new car making plants. They're into the hybridization story to get
Hmm.
around the US's range anxiety. All these sorts of things are really core to their strategy. And they're investing like there's no tomorrow. Billions of dollars are now going into the North American market to ensure that they've got a real presence and growing there at the same time that their business is getting smashed in China. Um, I focused on that because they're a relatively rare breed now,
Yeah.
Gerardo.
Yeah.
There is a lot of car companies that are asleep at the wheel, not really seeing what's happening here with the rise of those national brands from China. In the US, you don't see it quite so much, but in Australia, I can tell you, BYDs are everywhere.
Mm.
They're on the streets, they're dominating. There's a particular truck called the BYD Shark, and it's just blown me away coming back on this trip
Yeah.
back to Australia, just how many of them are driving around on Perth streets. It's really taking off. And it's a sign, mate, that we probably need to be doing better in the West, and that's why investment like what you've described, I think, is a natural course
Mm.
to ensure survival of key industries.
Well, listen, no doubt Patriot's going to play an important part there. You have, give or take, about 100 million Canadian in the treasury. How does that get allocated over the next 6 to 12 months? And what can we as shareholders expect to see from Patriot Battery Metals?
Yeah, no, spot on, Gerardo. So we are doing a little bit more drilling. It's a bit more targeted, not quite the same scale of programs that we've perhaps run in the last couple of years because we've broken the back of the resource base to underwrite the feasibility study. But there is still exploration intent there to ensure that we flush out these opportunities. Well, I guess like what's arisen in the cesium world. But there's plenty of lithium exploration potential as well. So a bit of that going on. The completion of the feasibility study, the environmental approvals documentation, that gets us into the last hurdle for the mine authorization. We expect that mine authorization, post submission of the feasibility and
Right.
environmental documents later this year, you've got about 12 to 24 months for the mine authorization process. And yeah, there's the sorts of things that we're going to be focused on. We're going to progress the economic opportunity in cesium and tantalum. I think I mentioned earlier, they'll start to flow through once we get past the first round of the feasibility or the last hurdle of the feasibility, and we're into the detailed engineering phase. I'm excited about that because they do represent very real economic opportunities beyond
Yeah.
beyond the
Yeah.
lithium. Fantastic credit to a really great project where you have genuinely got the L, the C, and the T, the lithium, cesium, and
Yeah.
the tantalum.
I think a lot of people are underestimating the next 6 to 12 months in terms of I don't want to say material catalyst because you have several of those, but you know how the general investor and speculator is. They like to see drilling. They like to see blockbuster results. You get into feasibility studies and really the important stuff that allows you to go from developer to producer. That's the work that has to be done. That is going to commence. I think people are underestimating the potential for a Volkswagen or maybe another company, a chemicals company or another vehicle company to come in and say, this is really unique over here. We want more of it, and we're willing to work together in many different ways. And I think it's going to be a fun 6 to 12 months of seeing you all continue to deliver. And I'm really looking forward to the upside surprises on that side. I know you're coy, and I know you like to play it close to the vest there, but I think it's going to be a great next 6 to 12 months. Before I let you go, Ken, thoughts on the lithium spot price? I know the futures price had a bit of a pullback. We're going to see that, but we've had a relative robust 3 or so weeks, right? Where we're starting to see some cracks in the ability for China to keep just glutting the market with this cheap material. Where do you think we go here in the next several quarters and maybe the next 12 months?
Yeah, the sector's due for upgrades actually, mate,
Yeah.
because the brokers and the analysts are a little bit behind on the demand equation. That's actually the key now.
Yeah.
Demand has typically outstripped year to date people's expectations. So in lithium raw material demand, we're up about 30 to 35% year to date compared to your typical analyst broker who'll be sitting at about 20%. So there is a gap emerging. And in fact, that's real. That's one of the reasons why you're starting to see the price respond. I think the bigger picture view would simply say China is moving the market faster than most people in the West would have given it credit for. And as they do, they've overbuilt capacity in cell making. So they can now switch that on with lower cost cells being contracted around the globe. As I said, I think especially in the world of stationary energy storage, that's one key phenomenon. Another is actually trucks and buses within China itself.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening there, and it's moving much faster than most people would have assumed. So the combination of those things means that the sector as a whole, I think, is due for some upgrades. And I think we can safely say that we've now seen the bottom. As uncomfortable as it's been, I think we're probably through that phase. Yeah, and now it's all about engagement with industry. You mentioned it, Gerardo. Like, our project is good enough that we can continue to build the consortium that's going to see this project through to production. There is more deals to be done that are going to be important to the progress of our project, and yeah, we're really looking forward to demonstrating how that can be done.
Excited to have you on. Excited for what comes next. Ken, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Gerardo. Great to be with you. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.